As you know, and we discussed before, we have two types of adjectives: attributive adjectives, which is going to be attributed to a noun before a noun or after a noun. I mean, they appear before a noun or after a noun. And predicative adjectives, which are almost always are a noun after verbs. For example, she is beautiful, he is smart. The adjective which appears a noun after a verb is called predicative adjective, a predicative adjective. And we know that we have two types of attributive adjectives. Some of the adjectives appear before nouns, and some others after the noun. The ones which appear before the nouns, we call it, or we call them prepositive adjectives, and the ones appearing after the nouns, we call them postpositive adjectives. Postpositive adjectives are rare, and the example is, for example, we say the president elect, the chosen president, something like the meaning is similar to that. But in case of the president elect, elect as an adjective appears after the noun president. And we have a handful of these adjectives in English, and you should learn them and learn how to use them. And we know that prepositive adjectives can be classified into different categories, for example, opinion adjectives, description, and classification. And you might face some other classifications, but here I classified them into three groups: opinion adjectives, which are my ideas, or which are the actually the speakers or the writer's ideas with regard to something. Descriptive adjectives are actually gonna describe the thing. I mean, talk about the features of that thing or that person or whatever it is. And at the end, we have classification adjectives, which actually classifies one thing or one person and distinguishes it from others of the same type or similar types. For example, we say transcontinental ships or warships, or fight aircrafts. Okay, or we say T-shirt. As a classification, we add sports T-shirt, which actually distinguishes T-shirt from the other types. This one from the other types. And we have an example here. You can talk about the different features of that T-shirt, and you can actually leave some blank, and you know that you can actually give some more details or less details with regard to something. This is the actually the discussion, or the actually the general things with regard to adjectives which we use most of the time before the nouns, as you see here, and in some cases after the nouns, and sometimes we use them without nouns. I mean, after the verbs and without any noun. But the story is not that. I mean, it is not that the whole story. We should keep into account other facts with regard to noun phrases. I mean, what you call them as subjects or objects of a verb. Subject or object. The person or the thing which does something, and the person or thing which is affected by the verb. Okay. And if you want to make a noun phrase and use it as an object or as a subject, you have to consider a row of words or a cluster of words, a string of words put together to make a noun phrase. Here we have adjectives, as you see in the middle, and nouns at the end. As you see here, we have nouns at the end, and other actually words or other elements at the beginning. For example, we have determiners at the beginning, and then in some cases we have adverbs here between determiners and adjectives. If we have one adjective or two adjectives here, we can add an adverb. Otherwise, we cannot. If there is no adjective here, then there should be no adverb here. This means that actually the existence of adverbs here depends on the existence of adjectives. Okay, so we can have adverbs here, Let's look at this the next slide, and that I have some examples which show that we can use determiners at the very beginning of a cluster of words, which we call noun phrase, and you use them as a actually subject or object. Determiners come first, then adverbs, depending on whether we have any kind of adjective here or not. If there is an adjective, we can have some adverbs here. Depends on actually you whether to use adverbs or not. But if there is an adjective, you can use. Okay, and then add adjectives here, and we have opinion adjective first, then description adjective or descriptive adjective, and at the end classification adjective. As you see here in the example, we have some actually seats full or actually occupied, and some left blank. I mean, you can decide whether to talk about actually the shape of something or not, the color of something or not, whether to actually opine with regard to something or not, whether to talk about the classification of something or not, whether to actually describe the adjective or modify the adjective with an adverb or not. This is on you. I mean, on the speaker. The speaker decides, or the writer decides. Okay. And at the very beginning, we have determiners which directly influences the noun at the end. Most of them, actually, most of them directly influences the noun at the end. For example, we have many. Many is a actually is a quantifier which all the time accompanies a plural noun. This means that if we have many here, we should have a plural noun at the end. If we have each or every here, we should have a singular noun here, something like a bicycle, a book, a student. If we have lots of here, we can have plural noun or a non-count noun. For example, sugar here, or t-shirts, bicycles, warships. Okay, this means that the number of the noun is most of the time defined by the determiners of that noun phrase. Okay, and you see this one here, and we have the rest of the examples. As you see here in this example, we have transcontinental warships. This is a classification adjective. We have sports t-shirts. Sports here is an adjective to describe t-shirts. And here we have beautiful. We can have something like cheap, expensive, good, suitable, reasonable, beautiful, and the other adjectives like that here. Okay, as an opinion adjective. And in the next slide, we have a clear picture of what we say or what we use to actually to modify a noun. Here we have opinion, description, and classification adjectives. And as you saw in the previous pictures or previous slides, and at the end we have nouns. As you see here, we have nouns here. And in the at the beginning of this cluster of words, this string of words, we have determiners, as you see here, and in the middle of, I mean, in between determiners and adjectives, we can have some sort of adverbs. Okay. And also we know that we can have adverbs to actually to elaborate on or to modify determinants. For example, we can say very few, or too few, or quite a few, something, or too little, am I right? Or very little, depending on whether that quantifier is a actually countable one or non-count one. That depends on whether we have a plural noun here or a singular noun or an uncountable noun, depending on that. And in the middle, I mean, before these adjectives, we can have adverbs here, as you see adverbs here, and you can have opinion adjectives and classification adjectives right between the words as you see here. It means that every single item or every single word in a cluster of words here in a cluster of noun phrase has its own seat, and it cannot it can't appear anywhere else, and it cannot be substituted by something else or for something else. And we should be careful with that, with these facts. And if you want to make actually any kind of um, and if you want to actually make any kind of noun cluster or word cluster and use them as a noun phrase instead of the subject of the verb or objects of the verb, you should be careful with this actually facts and make actually the word cluster correctly. Thank you and good luck. Share this video if you liked it. Have a nice time.